Hello and welcome to the Inner Courts of the Beautiful. The Shiva Panchakshari finds mention for the very first time in the Krishna Yajurveda Taittiriya Samhita. It also finds mention in the Yajurveda in the Rudrashtra-Dhyayi. And Sri Rudra, which is an extract of the Krishna Yajurveda Taittiriya Samhita in the 8th Anuvaka or hymn, we find mention of Nama Shivaya Cha, Shiva Taraya Cha. Salutations onto Shiva, the most auspicious, onto the one beyond whom there is no one more auspicious, Shiva Tara. And we also find mention of the Panchakshari all through the Shiva Purana. We also find mention of the Panchakshari as well as the Shadakshara. Panchakshari literally means Pancha Akshara, of 5 aksharas, of 5 syllables, of 5 seed sounds. And Shadakshara becomes 6 syllables, which means the Pranava or the Om precedes the Panchakshari. So Om Namah Shivaya becomes the Shadakshari. And one of the great Shaiva saints of the 8th century, Manikavasagar, in his magnum opus, the Tiruvasakam, he starts with Namah Shivaya. There have been many interpretations of what the Shiva Panchakshari mantra means. The various spiritual traditions in India have given a deeper understanding into the meaning of the Shiva Panchakshari mantra. In the Shaiva Siddhanta tradition, which is largely prevalent in the south of India, particularly in Tamil Nadu, the Shiva Panchakshari mantra is understood to be the Panchatattva Bodha of the universal consciousness of Lord Shiva. And each of the 5 aksharas are manifestations of the universal consciousness expressed as one of the 5 elements. So, Na would mean earth, Ma would mean water, Si would mean fire, Va would mean air, and Ya would mean the etheric space or Akasha. And all these 5 elements are an expression of the universal consciousness of Lord Shiva, and at its core carry the universal consciousness. We also have in the Siddha tradition, one of the greatest Siddhas is Tirumoolar. In his work, which has come to us as the Tirumandiram, which is a very mystical work, and which is also completely expressed in twilight language, which is very hard to decipher for the uninitiated, and which perhaps has to be guided through a realized guru. The Tirumandiram, in mystical language, gives us some insight into what the Panchakshari means. Tirumular says that Na is the feet of Lord Shiva, Ma is the navel, Si is the shoulder of Lord Shiva, Va is the mouth of Lord Shiva, and Ya is the cranial center above the head, such as the Sahasrara chakra, which is radiating. And that is the complete expression of the form of Lord Shiva. So the Panchakshari literally is the form of Lord Shiva. The Puranas suggest that it is upon the direction of Maharishi Bhrigu that the worship of Lord Shiva in the form of a Shiva Linga began. We also have the insight from the Siddha Tirumular that the Panchakshari is verily the form of Lord Shiva itself. So there must be some association between the Panchakshari and the Shiva Linga. Now, to understand what the Shiva Linga is, the Shiva Linga is a composite of the Linga, which is a phallic representation of the male principle, and the Yoni, which is the representation of the female principle in the form of the vulva or the vagina. And the fusing of the two represent the Hiranyagarbha or the golden embryo, which is the source of all creation. So all creation is symbolized by the Hiranyagarbha, and the Shiva Linga thus becomes the source of all creation, and hence it houses or embodies all beings that emerge from such a creation. It is hence also called as the Alaya. The Linga has association with the word Alaya. And since it is the Alaya, the residence of all beings, all the Devas and the Devis, the Devatas, so to say, reside in the Devalaya. And hence, one circumambulates when one visits the temple, which is called a Devalaya. The Garbhagriha is called a Devalaya, and one circumambulates in the form of a worship of the divine. We have some insight from Jyotisha here. The sun is said to represent Lord Shiva being the divine father, and the divine father is the Paramatma, and whose sparks are all the beings, the Jivatmas, and hence sun becomes the Naisargika or the natural Atmakaraka. He is representing the Paramatma. Hence, it is around sun that the other grahas go around, they circumambulate the sun, and hence the sun is the Devalaya, representing the Shiva Linga, which is also the Devalaya, where all the Devas and the Devis reside. Lord Krishna adds to it in the Bhagavad Gita. He gives us a deeper insight. He says that all the beings, animate or inanimate, that emerge from the yonis are created by the divine mother of Prakriti, of nature, and the divine father in the form of the seed giver or the bija giver, which is Lord Shiva in the form of the Linga. And he says that source of all creation is me. Shiva in the form of the Linga is sometimes also referred to as Lingaraja. In fact, there's a very famous Lingaraj temple in Orissa. So what is the association between Linga and Raja, and what does Raja mean? Raja here means Raja Yoga, or the union of the gods, and the Linga here represents the union of the gods. Now, how exactly the Linga represents the union of the gods? We have an insight from the Shiva Purana, where one of the shlokas in the Shiva Purana says, Mule Brahma tada madhye Vishnu Tribhuvaneshwara tadupari Mahadeva pranavakya Sadashiva Linga Devi Mahadevi Linga Shakshat Maheshwara Tata Pujani Nityam Deva Devischa Pujitav. So what this means is that at the base of the Linga is Brahma. In the middle is Vishnu as Tribhuvaneshwara, the Lord of the three worlds, the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and the Svargaloka. And above the middle is Mahadeva, and the the hemisphere at the top is Sadashiva. The base is the yoni, or the representation of the female principle as Mahadevi. And this composite is the complete form of Maheshwara. And of course, the Shivalinga has an association with the Panchakshari mantra. So this would then translate to all these 5 deities in the form of the 5 Bijaksharas. So A represents Brahma, U represents Vishnu, Ma represents Shiva, and the crescent above the Om represents Sadashiva or the Nada, and the Bindu represents Adi Shakti. Hence, the Sukshma Panchakshari mantra would be Om Nada Bindu. But due to the effect of Prakriti, the Sukshma Panchakshari transforms to the Stula Panchakshari, and that becomes a Nama Shivaya. So hence, the Shivalinga becomes the manifestation or the symbolism of the Pranava, and hence it becomes the repository of all knowledge and all creation. We just saw how, due to the effect of Prakriti, the Sukshma Panchakshari, which is Om Nada Bindu, transforms to the Stula Panchakshari, Namah Shivaya. Sukshma being subtle and Stula being gross form. So, some scholars believe the chanting of the Panchakshari, or more specifically the Stula Panchakshari of Namah Shivaya, is a giver of all bounties of nature, all material bounties. However, it might not be the mantra that gives one emancipation or moksha. Moksha suggests getting over desires and getting over all forms of attachment. And hence, instead of the Panchakshari, the Shadakshari is suggested, where the Pranava, Om, precedes the Panchakshari. The mantra hence becomes Om Namah Shivaya. Tulsidas, in a very beautiful verse, illustrates this point. He says, Om Namah Shivaya Gauri Shankaraya Mahadevaya Namo Namo Madanantakaya Mukti Pradaya Srimad Shankaraya Namo Namo. What this means is Om Namah Shivaya Gauri Shankaraya, in the form of Gauri, Parvati, Shankara, Shiva, worship you. And you are Mahadeva, the god of the gods, the great god, who is Madanantaka. That means you destroy Madana, Madana being the god of love, and hence the root cause of desire. So by destroying Madana, you end all desire and attachment. And because you end all desire and attachment, you give me Mukti, Mukti Pradaya. You give me freedom, freedom from sorrow and freedom from rebirth, because of having overcome all forms of attachment. And you are Srimad Shankaraya. Shankara is Samkara. Sam is a coming together of all that is auspicious. It is all that is auspicious. And Kara is the cause of the benefactor. So, by giving us freedom, He gives us all that is auspicious. And He is verily the cause of Samkara. And hence, Tulsidas exhorts one to chant the Shiva Shadakshari mantra of Om Namah Shivaya. I hope you liked this episode of the legendary mantras. Thanks for joining me. I'll hope to see you next week with another legendary mantra. Take care.